Rabbit saves a child from danger, and what happens next is incredible. In a quiet town nestled between rolling hills and sprawling meadows, a young boy named Oliver Thompson felt like a stranger in his own life. At just 10 years old, he was often lost in a world of his imagination, where he could escape the pressures of school and the loneliness that sometimes crept in at home. His days were filled with dreams of adventure, but his reality was often overshadowed by the struggles of fitting in and the weight of expectations from his parents. Oliver was a thoughtful child, with tousled brown hair and big, curious green eyes that sparkled with a hint of mischief. He loved exploring the nearby woods, where he could lose himself among the trees and the whispers of the wind. It was during one of these solitary adventures that he stumbled upon an unexpected friend, a small, scruffy rabbit with fur as white as snow and a pair of big, expressive ears that twitched at every sound. The rabbit seemed to appear out of nowhere, hopping cautiously toward Oliver as he sat on a fallen log, sketching the landscape in his worn-out notebook. Oliver named him Snowball, and from that moment on, they became inseparable. Snowball had a personality as vibrant as Oliver's imagination. He was curious, brave, and had an uncanny ability to sense Oliver's emotions. Whenever Oliver felt sad or anxious, Snowball would nuzzle against him, offering comfort in his own furry way. As the seasons changed, their bond deepened. Oliver would bring Snowball fresh clovers and carrots, sharing his secrets and dreams with the little creature. Snowball, in return, would entertain him with playful hops and sudden bursts of energy, reminding Oliver of the joy that could be found in the simplest of moments. Yet, beneath this idyllic friendship lay an unspoken fear. Oliver often felt a sense of foreboding, as if something was lurking just beyond the horizon, waiting to disrupt their peaceful existence. One crisp autumn afternoon, as leaves danced in the wind and the sun cast golden rays across the landscape, Oliver ventured deeper into the woods than ever before. He was drawn to a hidden glade he had never seen, where the trees stood taller and the air was filled with the sweet scent of pine. Snowball bounded ahead, his white fur a bright beacon against the earthy tones of the forest floor. "Wait up, Snowball," Oliver called, his voice echoing through the trees. He felt a thrill of excitement as he chased after his furry friend, eager to discover what secrets the glade held. But as he rounded a corner, the ground beneath him gave way, and he tumbled down a steep slope, landing with a thud in a small clearing surrounded by thick underbrush. Dazed but unharmed, Oliver looked around, his heart racing. The glade was beautiful but eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the lively woods he knew. Panic surged through him as he realized he had lost sight of Snowball. "Snowball!" he shouted, his voice trembling. Just then, a rustling sound caught his attention. He turned to see a pair of glowing eyes watching him from the shadows. Fear gripped him as he recognized the silhouette of a fox, its sleek body poised and ready to pounce. Oliver's heart raced as he scrambled to his feet, backing away slowly. "Stay back," he cried, his voice barely above a whisper. In that moment of desperation, a flash of white darted past him. Snowball appeared out of nowhere, standing defiantly between Oliver and the fox. The little rabbit thumped his hind legs against the ground, a warning signal that echoed through the clearing. The fox, taken aback by the unexpected show of bravery, hesitated for a moment, its eyes darting between Oliver and the fearless rabbit. "Snowball, no!" Oliver shouted, fear gripping his heart. But Snowball stood his ground, his tiny body trembling with determination. The fox, sensing the rabbit's courage, decided it was not worth the risk and slinked away into the underbrush, leaving Oliver and Snowball alone once more. Breathless and shaken, Oliver knelt beside his brave friend, tears welling in his eyes. "You saved me, Snowball," he whispered, wrapping his arms around the rabbit. In that moment, Oliver understood the true depth of their bond, the courage they could find in each other, even in the face of danger. But as they made their way back home, Oliver couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The woods held many mysteries, and he sensed that their adventures were far from over. Little did he know that their friendship would soon be tested in ways he could never have imagined. The days following the encounter with the fox were filled with a mix of relief and lingering anxiety for Oliver. He and Snowball returned to their routine of exploring the woods. But Oliver couldn't shake the feeling that danger was still lurking nearby. He often found himself glancing over his shoulder, half expecting to see the fox, or something even more menacing. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Oliver and Snowball ventured to their favorite spot by the creek. The water sparkled like diamonds, and the sound of the gentle current was soothing. Oliver sat on a rock, sketching the scene before him, while Snowball hopped around, nibbling on clover and chasing after butterflies. "Look, Snowball!" Oliver exclaimed, pointing to a cluster of wildflowers. "I think I'll draw those next." He was lost in his art, the worries of the world fading away as he captured the beauty of nature on paper. But just as he was about to add the final touches, a loud rustling in the bushes nearby startled him. "Did you hear that?" Oliver asked, his heart racing. Snowball froze, his ears perked up, listening intently. The rustling grew louder, and Oliver's imagination began to run wild. What if it was the fox again? Or something worse? Suddenly, a small figure burst through the underbrush. A young girl, no older than Oliver, with wild curls and a mischievous grin. "Hey, what are you doing out here?" she called, her voice bright and cheerful. Oliver let out a sigh of relief. "You scared me. I thought it was a wild animal or something." The girl laughed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I'm MIA. I live just down the road. I come here all the time to explore." "What's your name?" "Oliver," he replied, still a bit shaken but intrigued by her energy. "This is my friend Snowball." He gestured to the rabbit, who was cautiously approaching MIA, sniffing her shoes. "Nice to meet you, Snowball," MIA said, crouching down to pet the rabbit. "He's so cute. Can I join you?" Oliver hesitated for a moment. He was used to being alone with Snowball, but something about Mia's enthusiasm was infectious. "Sure. We were just exploring." As they wandered deeper into the woods, Oliver found himself opening up to MIA in a way he hadn't expected. She was adventurous and fearless, climbing trees and jumping over fallen logs with ease. Snowball followed closely, his little legs working hard to keep up with the two children. "Have you ever seen anything really cool out here?" MIA asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Oliver thought for a moment. "Well, I saw a fox the other day. It almost attacked me, but Snowball scared it away." Mia's eyes widened. "No way! That's so brave of Snowball. I wish I could have seen it." As they continued their adventure, Oliver felt a sense of camaraderie growing between them. MIA was different from the other kids at school. She didn't care about fitting in or following the rules. She was wild and free, and Oliver found himself drawn to her spirit. But as the sun began to set, casting an orange glow over the trees, Oliver felt a twinge of unease. "We should probably head back," he suggested, glancing at the sky. "It's getting late. Just a little longer," MIA pleaded, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Let's see if we can find that fox." Before Oliver could protest, MIA took off running deeper into the woods, with Snowball bounding after her. "Wait, MIA," he called, panic rising in his chest. He didn't want to lose her, but he also didn't want to encounter the fox again. As he chased after them, the woods grew darker, the shadows stretching ominously around him. "MIA," he shouted, but the only response was the rustling of leaves and the distant sound of laughter. Finally, he spotted them. A few yards ahead, MIA was crouched down, peering into a thicket. "Look, Oliver, I think I see something," she exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement. Oliver approached cautiously, his heart pounding. As he reached Mia's side, he saw what had captured her attention, a small den nestled among the roots of a tree. The entrance was dark, and Oliver felt a chill run down his spine. "Maybe we should leave it alone," he suggested, glancing at Snowball, who seemed to sense the tension in the air. But MIA was already inching closer, her curiosity getting the better of her. "Come on, it'll be fine," she insisted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let's just take a peek." Before Oliver could stop her, MIA crawled into the den, her laughter echoing in the darkness. "It's so cool in here," she called out, her voice muffled. "You have to see this." Oliver hesitated, torn between his desire to protect his new friend and his own curiosity. "MIA, be careful," he warned, but she was already lost in her exploration. Suddenly, a loud growl erupted from the den, sending a jolt of fear through Oliver. The ground shook as a large creature emerged, a mother bear, her eyes fierce and protective. MIA scrambled backward, her face pale with terror. "Run, Oliver," she screamed, her voice filled with panic. In that moment, Oliver's instincts kicked in. He grabbed Snowball and bolted in the opposite direction, his heart racing as he heard the bear's growl echoing behind them. "This way," he shouted to MIA, who was struggling to keep up. They dashed through the underbrush, branches scratching at their arms and legs as they ran. Oliver could hear the bear crashing through the trees, its heavy footsteps growing closer. "We have to find a way to escape," he yelled, glancing back to see the bear gaining on them. Just then, Snowball darted ahead, his small body weaving through the trees. "Snowball, wait!" Oliver called, but the rabbit seemed to know something they didn't. He led them toward a narrow path that wound through the thicket, a hidden escape route Oliver had never noticed before. "Follow Snowball," Oliver shouted, and MIA nodded, her eyes wide with fear. They raced after the rabbit, who hopped with surprising speed, guiding them through the dense foliage. As they reached the end of the path, they found themselves at the edge of a steep cliff overlooking the valley below. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the landscape. But there was no time to admire the view. The bear was still pursuing them, its growls echoing through the trees. "Oliver, what do we do?" MIA gasped, her breath coming in quick bursts. "Maybe we can climb down," Oliver suggested, glancing at the rocky ledge. It was a risky move, but they had no other choice. "We have to be careful." With Snowball tucked safely under his arm, Oliver led the way down the cliff, his heart pounding in his chest. The rocks were slippery, and he had to focus on each step, praying they wouldn't fall. MIA followed closely behind, her eyes filled with determination. Just as they reached the bottom, they heard the bear's roar echoing above them. "Hurry," Oliver urged, glancing back to see the massive creature peering over the edge. Its eyes locked onto them. They sprinted across the open field, the grass brushing against their legs as they ran. Oliver's mind raced with thoughts of safety and survival. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had to protect MIA and Snowball at all costs. As they reached the edge of the woods, Oliver spotted a large tree with a thick trunk and low branches. "Up there," he shouted, pointing to the tree. "We can climb." Without hesitation, they scrambled up the tree, their hearts pounding as they reached the safety of the branches. From their perch, they could see the bear pacing below, its growls echoing through the clearing. "Are we safe?" Mia asked, her voice trembling. "For now," Oliver replied, trying to catch his breath. "But we need to stay quiet." As they sat in the tree, the reality of their situation began to sink in. They had faced danger together, and Oliver felt a surge of pride for both himself and Snowball. But he also knew they couldn't stay in the tree forever. They needed a plan to get back home safely. "Do you think the bear will leave?" Mia whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "I hope so," Oliver replied, glancing down at the bear, which was now sniffing around the base of the tree. "But we can't wait too long. We need to find a way to distract it." Mia nodded, her mind racing. "What if we throw something to lure it away?" Oliver looked around, searching for anything they could use. "There are some branches over there," he said, pointing to a pile of fallen twigs. "We can use those." Carefully, they gathered a few branches and tossed them away from the tree, hoping to draw the bear's attention. The bear perked up, its ears twitching as it turned toward the noise. "Now's our chance," Oliver urged, his heart racing. "On the count of 3, we climb down and run for the path." Mia nodded, her determination shining through her fear. "Okay, 1, 2, 3. They climbed down the tree as quickly as they could, adrenaline pumping through their veins. The bear was still distracted, sniffing at the branches they had thrown. "Run!" Oliver shouted, and they took off toward the path, Snowball bounding alongside them. As they raced through the woods, Oliver felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. They were alive, and they had faced danger together. But they still had to make it home. Finally, they burst through the trees and into the open field that led back to Oliver's neighborhood. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the landscape, and for a moment, everything felt peaceful. "We did it!" Mia exclaimed, her face flushed with excitement. "We actually did it!" Oliver couldn't help but smile, the adrenaline still coursing through him. "Yeah, we did. But we need to get home before it gets too dark." As they walked back, Oliver felt a sense of camaraderie with Mia that he had never experienced before. They had faced danger together, and it had forged a bond between them that felt unbreakable. But as they approached the edge of the woods, Oliver's heart sank. He realized that their adventure was far from over. The woods held many secrets, and he sensed that they would soon find themselves in the midst of another challenge, one that would test their bravery and their friendship in ways they could never have imagined. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions for Oliver. The thrill of their narrow escape from the bear lingered in his mind. But so did the fear of what might happen next. He and Mia had become fast friends, bonding over their shared adventure. But Oliver couldn't shake the feeling that the woods were hiding more dangers. One afternoon, as they met at the edge of the forest, Oliver noticed a change in the atmosphere. The air felt heavy, and the sky was overcast, casting a gray pall over the landscape. "Do you think we should go back in?" Mia asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Oliver hesitated. "I don't know. It feels different today. Maybe we should just stay close to the edge." But Mia's adventurous spirit was undeterred. "Come on, we can't let a little weather stop us. Let's explore that cave we saw last week." Oliver's heart raced at the thought. The cave was deep in the woods, a place they had only glimpsed from a distance. It was rumored to be home to all sorts of creatures, and the thought of venturing inside both excited and terrified him. "What if there are more bears?" he asked, trying to mask his fear. Mia shrugged, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "We'll be fine. Besides, we have Snowball. He'll protect us." With a reluctant nod, Oliver agreed, and they set off deeper into the woods. Snowball hopping eagerly beside them. As they walked, the trees loomed taller, their branches intertwining like fingers reaching for the sky. The path grew narrower, and the sounds of the forest faded into an eerie silence. After what felt like an eternity, they finally reached the mouth of the cave. It was dark and foreboding, the entrance framed by jagged rocks and thick vines. "Are you ready?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," Oliver admitted, his heart pounding in his chest. "But we can't turn back now." With a deep breath, they stepped inside, the cool air wrapping around them like a shroud. The cave was dimly lit, with shafts of light filtering through cracks in the ceiling. Oliver's eyes adjusted to the darkness, revealing walls adorned with strange markings and shadows that danced in the flickering light. "Wow," Mia breathed, her voice echoing off the walls. "This is amazing." As they ventured further in, the cave opened up into a vast chamber, the ceiling soaring high above them. Stalactites hung like icicles, and the ground was uneven, littered with rocks and debris. Oliver felt a mix of awe and trepidation. "We should be careful," he warned, glancing around. "We don't know what's in here." Mia nodded, but her curiosity was insatiable. "Let's see if we can find anything cool." She darted ahead, her laughter ringing through the cavern. "Wait, Mia," Oliver called, but she was already exploring, her adventurous spirit leading her deeper into the shadows. Snowball followed closely, his little nose twitching as he sniffed the air. As Oliver moved cautiously behind them, he felt a growing sense of unease. The cave was beautiful, but it also felt alive, as if it were watching them. He could hear the distant sound of dripping water, and the air was thick with the scent of damp earth. Suddenly, Mia's voice echoed back to him, filled with excitement. "Oliver, come look at this." Oliver hurried toward her, his heart racing. When he reached her side, he saw what had captured her attention, a shimmering pool of water, its surface reflecting the light like a mirror. "It's beautiful," Mia exclaimed, kneeling beside it. "Yeah, but we should be careful," Oliver warned, glancing around. "We don't know what's in the water." Just then, Snowball hopped closer to the edge of the pool, his ears perked up. "Snowball, don't!" Oliver shouted, but it was too late. The rabbit leaned over the water, and with a sudden splash, he fell in. "Snowball!" Oliver cried, panic surging through him. Without thinking, he lunged forward, reaching for his friend. But as he did, the ground beneath him gave way, and he stumbled into the pool, the cold water enveloping him. Mia gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "Oliver!" Oliver struggled to regain his footing, the water pulling him down. He could see Snowball flailing in the water, his little body fighting against the current. "I've got you!" Oliver shouted, reaching out for the rabbit. With a surge of adrenaline, he managed to grab Snowball and pull him close, holding him tightly against his chest. "It's okay, buddy, I've got you," he reassured, but the water was deeper than he had anticipated, and he felt himself being dragged under. Just then, Mia jumped in after them, her determination shining through her fear. "Hold on, Oliver," she yelled, swimming toward him. "I'll help you." Together, they fought against the water, struggling to stay afloat. Oliver's heart raced as he felt the weight of Snowball in his arms, the rabbit trembling but alive. "We need to get to the edge," he shouted, his voice strained. Mia nodded, her face set with determination. "Follow me," she called, leading the way toward a rocky outcropping. With every ounce of strength, they swam toward it, the water swirling around them. Finally, they reached the edge, and Oliver managed to pull himself and Snowball onto the rocky surface. Gasping for breath, he looked at Mia, who was panting beside him. "We made it!" she exclaimed, her eyes wide with relief. But their moment of triumph was short-lived. The cave began to tremble, and a low rumble echoed through the chamber. "What's happening?" Oliver shouted, fear gripping his heart. "I don't know," MIA replied, her voice filled with panic. "We need to get out of here." Just then, the ground shook violently, and rocks began to fall from the ceiling. "Run!" Oliver yelled, grabbing Snowball and pulling MIA along with him. They sprinted toward the entrance, the cave collapsing behind them. As they raced through the darkness, Oliver's heart pounded in his chest. He could hear the sound of falling rocks and the roar of the cave as it threatened to swallow them whole. "Keep going," he urged, pushing himself to run faster. Finally, they burst out of the cave, tumbling onto the forest floor just as the entrance collapsed behind them. They lay there for a moment, gasping for breath, the adrenaline coursing through their veins. "We did it!" MIA exclaimed, her voice filled with disbelief. "We actually made it out." Oliver looked at her, his heart still racing. "But what if we hadn't?" he said, his voice trembling. That was too close. As they sat there, catching their breath, Oliver realized how much their adventure had changed him. He had faced his fears, and together with MIA and Snowball, they had survived. But he also knew that the woods held more secrets, and their journey was far from over. Just then, Snowball nuzzled against Oliver's leg, his little body trembling but safe. "You're okay, buddy," Oliver whispered, relief flooding through him. "You're okay?" MIA smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. "We're a team, Oliver. We can face anything together." In that moment, Oliver felt a surge of hope. They had faced danger and come out stronger on the other side. But as they looked back at the cave, now a dark and foreboding entrance, Oliver couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest challenge was still ahead. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden hue over the forest as Oliver, MIA, and Snowball sat on the ground, catching their breath. The adrenaline from their narrow escape still coursed through their veins. But the reality of what they had just experienced began to sink in. They had faced danger together, and the bond they shared felt stronger than ever. "Did you see how close we were?" MIA exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "That was insane. I can't believe we made it out." Oliver nodded, still trying to process the events that had unfolded. "Yeah, but we were lucky. We could have been trapped in there," he said, glancing back at the cave entrance, now a dark maw in the fading light. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. "Let's not think about that right now," MIA said, her voice brightening. "We should celebrate. We survived an adventure." Oliver couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. "Okay, but let's get back home first. I think we've had enough excitement for one day." As they made their way back through the woods, the atmosphere felt different. The shadows seemed to stretch longer, and the sounds of the forest were muted, as if the trees were holding their breath. Oliver felt a sense of unease creeping back in, but he pushed it aside, focusing on the warmth of the friendship he had forged with MIA. "Do you think we'll ever go back to that cave?" MIA asked, her voice curious. "I don't know," Oliver replied, glancing at her. "Maybe when we're older? Right now, I think we should stick to the safer parts of the woods." MIA laughed, her spirit unbroken. "You're such a chicken, Oliver. But I guess that's what makes you a good friend. You look out for me." They continued walking, the path winding through the trees, and Oliver felt a sense of comfort in Mia's presence. Snowball hopped alongside them, his little nose twitching as he explored the ground. The rabbit seemed to sense the tension in the air, occasionally glancing back at Oliver as if to reassure him. As they reached the edge of the woods, the familiar sight of Oliver's neighborhood came into view. The houses stood in neat rows, their windows glowing with warm light. Oliver felt a wave of relief wash over him. They were safe. Let's go to my house, Oliver suggested. My mom always has cookies baking, and I could use something sweet after today. Sounds perfect, Mia agreed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I can't wait to tell your mom about our adventure. As they walked up the driveway, Oliver felt a sense of normalcy returning. The chaos of the cave seemed like a distant memory, and he was grateful to be back in the comfort of home. He opened the door, and the warm scent of chocolate chip cookies wafted through the air. Mom, I'm home, he called out, kicking off his shoes and stepping inside. In the kitchen, honey, his mother replied, her voice cheerful. Oliver and Mia made their way to the kitchen, where his mother stood at the counter, pulling a tray of cookies from the oven. There you are. I was wondering when you'd be back, she said, smiling at them. Did you have fun? Yeah, we had an adventure, Mia exclaimed, her excitement bubbling over. You won't believe what happened. As Mia launched into the story, Oliver watched his mother's face shift from amusement to concern. You two need to be careful out there, she said, her brow furrowing. The woods can be dangerous, especially if you're not paying attention. We know, Mom, Oliver said, trying to reassure her. But we were careful. We just wanted to explore. His mother sighed, placing a hand on his shoulder. I understand, but promise me you'll stay close to home from now on. I don't want you getting into any more trouble. I promise, Oliver said, though he felt a twinge of disappointment. He loved the thrill of adventure, but he also understood his mother's worries. After they enjoyed the cookies, Oliver and Mia retreated to his room, where they could talk freely. The walls were adorned with posters of superheroes and adventure scenes, a reflection of Oliver's imagination. He felt safe here, away from the dangers of the woods. Your mom is really nice, Mia said, plopping down on the floor. I can see where you get your kindness from. Thanks, Oliver replied, feeling a warmth in his chest. I just wish she didn't worry so much. Mia nodded, her expression thoughtful. I get it. My parents are the same way. But you know what? We're brave. We faced a bear and a cave collapse. That's something to be proud of. Oliver smiled, feeling a sense of pride swell within him. Yeah, we really did. And Snowball was so brave too. He looked down at the rabbit, who was now curled up in a corner, his eyes half closed. I think he deserves a treat. Mia laughed. Definitely. He's a hero. As they sat together, sharing stories and laughter, Oliver felt a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced before. Mia had become more than just a friend, she was a partner in adventure. Someone who understood his fears and dreams. But as the evening wore on, Oliver couldn't shake the feeling that their adventure was far from over. The woods still held secrets, and he sensed that they would soon find themselves facing another challenge. The next day, as they met at the edge of the woods again, Oliver felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Are you ready for another adventure? Mia asked, her eyes sparkling. I guess so, Oliver replied, glancing at the trees. But let's stick to the safer paths this time. Mia nodded, and they set off together, Snowball hopping happily beside them. As they walked, Oliver felt a sense of anticipation building within him. The woods were alive with possibilities, and he was ready to embrace whatever came next. But as they ventured deeper into the forest, the atmosphere shifted once more. The air grew thick with tension, and the sounds of the forest faded into an eerie silence. Oliver's heart raced as he glanced at Mia, who seemed to sense the change as well. Do you feel that? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, Oliver replied, his stomach knotting with unease. It feels different. Just then, a rustling sound echoed through the trees, and Oliver's heart dropped. He turned to see a shadow moving among the branches. a figure that sent chills down his spine. "MIA, we should go back," he said, his voice trembling. But before they could turn around, the figure emerged from the shadows. A large, menacing wolf. Its eyes gleaming with an unsettling intelligence. Oliver's breath caught in his throat as he realized they were in danger once again. "Stay close to me," he shouted, instinctively placing himself between MIA and the wolf. Snowball stood at his feet, his little body tense and ready to defend. The wolf approached slowly, its gaze fixed on them. Oliver's heart raced as he felt the weight of fear pressing down on him. "What do we do?" he whispered to MIA, his voice shaking. "I don't know," she replied, her eyes wide with terror. "We can't let it get us." In that moment, Oliver remembered the bravery they had shown in the cave. They had faced danger together before, and they could do it again. "We need to distract it," he said, his mind racing. "Maybe we can throw something to lure it away." MIA nodded, her determination shining through her fear. "There are some sticks over there." She pointed, and they quickly gathered a few branches, their hearts pounding in their chests. On the count of 3, Oliver said, glancing back at the wolf, which was still watching them intently. 1, 2, 3. They threw the sticks as far as they could, hoping to draw the wolf's attention away from them. The wolf's ears perked up, and it turned its gaze toward the noise, momentarily distracted. "Now!" Oliver shouted, grabbing Mia's hand and pulling her along as they sprinted in the opposite direction. They ran through the trees, their hearts racing as they heard the wolf's growl echoing behind them. "Faster!" Oliver urged, pushing himself to run harder. They dashed through the underbrush, branches scratching at their arms and legs as they fled. Snowball hopped alongside them, his little legs working hard to keep up. Just when Oliver thought they might escape, he heard the sound of heavy footsteps behind them. The wolf was gaining on them, its growls growing louder. "We need to find a place to hide," he shouted, glancing around frantically. Ahead, he spotted a large tree with a hollow trunk. "There!" he pointed, and they sprinted toward it, diving inside just as the wolf reached the clearing. Breathless and trembling, they huddled together in the darkness of the hollow tree. Snowball nestled between them. Oliver could hear the wolf sniffing around outside, its growls echoing in the stillness. "What do we do now?" MIA whispered, her voice shaking. "We wait," Oliver replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "We can't let it find us." As they sat in the darkness, Oliver felt a mix of fear and determination. They had faced danger before, and they could do it again. But this time, the stakes felt higher. The wolf was a predator, and they were vulnerable. Minutes felt like hours as they waited, the sounds of the forest fading into an eerie silence. Finally, the wolf's growls began to fade, and Oliver dared to peek out from the hollow tree. "It's gone," he whispered, relief flooding through him. "We need to get out of here." MIA nodded, her eyes wide with fear. "Let's be quick." They crawled out of the tree, glancing around to ensure the coast was clear. The forest was quiet, but Oliver felt a lingering sense of unease. They had escaped the wolf, but he knew they couldn't let their guard down. "Let's head back," Oliver suggested, glancing at MIA. "We've had enough excitement for one day." As they made their way back through the woods, Oliver felt a sense of camaraderie with MIA that had grown even stronger. They had faced danger together, and it had forged a bond between them that felt unbreakable. But as they reached the edge of the woods, Oliver couldn't shake the feeling that their adventures were far from over. The woods held many secrets, and he sensed that they would soon find themselves facing another challenge, one that would test their bravery and their friendship in ways they could never have imagined. As Oliver and MIA emerged from the woods, the familiar sights and sounds of their neighborhood enveloped them like a warm blanket. The sun was setting, casting a soft glow over the houses. And the air was filled with the comforting scent of dinner wafting from nearby kitchens. But despite the safety of home, Oliver felt a lingering tension in his chest. A reminder of the dangers they had faced. "Can you believe we survived that?" Mia said, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and disbelief. "First the bear, then the cave, and now the wolf. We're like real adventurers." Oliver smiled, but his heart was still racing. "Yeah, but it was really scary. I don't think I want to go back into the woods for a while." Mia nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I get it. But we faced those dangers together, and that's what matters. We're a team, Oliver." As they walked toward Oliver's house, he felt a swell of gratitude for Mia's friendship. She had brought a sense of adventure into his life. And together they had faced challenges that had tested their courage and resilience. "Thanks for being so brave, Mia," he said, glancing at her. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Thanks for looking out for me," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "And for Snowball too. He's the real hero here." They reached Oliver's front porch, and he paused, looking back at the woods. The trees stood tall and silent, their shadows stretching across the ground. He knew that the forest held many secrets, and while he felt a sense of unease about what lay within, he also felt a deep connection to it. The adventures he had shared with Mia and Snowball had changed him in ways he couldn't fully understand yet. "Do you think we'll go back?" Mia asked, breaking his reverie. "Maybe someday," Oliver replied, a hint of determination in his voice. "But for now, I think we should take a break. We've had enough excitement for a while." Mia grinned, her spirit unbroken. "Agreed. But I can't wait to tell everyone at school about our adventures. We're going to be legends." As they stepped inside, the warmth of home enveloped them. Oliver's mother was in the kitchen, her back turned as she hummed a tune. "How was your day, you two?" she called out, glancing over her shoulder. "Exciting," Mia exclaimed, her eyes wide with enthusiasm. "You won't believe what we did." Oliver chuckled, knowing that Mia would launch into the story of their adventures, embellishing the details with her vivid imagination. He felt a sense of pride as he listened to her recount their encounters with the bear, the cave, and the wolf. It was a story of bravery, friendship, and the extraordinary bond they had formed. As the evening wore on, Oliver felt a sense of peace settle over him. They had faced danger and emerged stronger, and he knew that their friendship would only continue to grow. The woods would always be a part of him, a place of adventure and mystery. But he also understood the importance of safety and caution. Later that night, as he lay in bed, Oliver reflected on everything that had happened. He thought about the fear he had felt, the bravery he had discovered within himself, and the unbreakable bond he had formed with Mia and Snowball. He realized that true courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it head-on, especially when you had friends by your side. With a smile on his face, he drifted off to sleep, dreaming of new adventures that awaited him in the future. The woods would always be there, filled with secrets and challenges. But he knew that with Mia and Snowball by his side, he could face anything that came their way. As the moonlight filtered through his window, illuminating the room, Oliver felt a sense of hope and wonder. The world was full of possibilities, and he was ready to embrace them all. Together, they would continue to explore, to learn, and to grow, forging a friendship that would last a lifetime. And so, the story of Oliver, Mia, and Snowball was just beginning, a tale of bravery, companionship, and the extraordinary bonds that exist between humans and animals. They had faced danger and emerged victorious. But the greatest adventure of all was the journey they would take together, discovering the beauty and magic of the world around them. Thanks for joining us on this journey with our furry champions. If you enjoyed this heartwarming story, don't forget to subscribe to Furry Champions. Hit that like button and share with friends to spread the love for our furry friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, celebrate the amazing bond between humans and animals. See you in the next video.